Pump it up, pump it up.
Trae.
Come on, come on.
With Trae.
Pump it up, pump it up.
It's the day with Trae.
This is the day to gain inspiration, to make a positive change in the nation. We're inviting you to partake in conversation, to raise your vibration. It's the day that we will all celebrate all of our peace that make this thing elevate. Watch the negative fade away, cause it's the day with Trae.
Grand Rising, everyone. Welcome to the Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday, and I get to welcome you to an amazing Thursday. Honestly, really grateful to be able to bring to you my guest who's in the building with me today. Chief Awodi is here. We're going to be talking all about the amazing ways that he is bringing African culture to the community. And y'all definitely want to stay tuned for that. But of course, stay tuned for this because right now you get to actually help us here on the Day with Trae by sharing this show with others who you feel could benefit from the daily dose of dopeness we work to bring you here on the Day with Trae. And if you can't watch our TV show, you can always listen to us as well anywhere you find your favorite podcast. Just search Converge Media Network and the Day with Trae. We'll be right there on your favorite platforms. Now, before I get into it today with Chief Awodi, I get to say that it is so special, not only as somebody who has experienced and been benefited by those who continue to bring our traditions, our, ancient traditions back into practice today. I'm someone that not only benefited from it as a young person, but even now as an adult. And my son is doing the same. And it's so valuable because, we understand here in this country, while it is, open to everyone to come, a lot of us who are particularly those descendants of those who were enslaved, we miss a lot of our cultural traditions. We didn't grow up with them all the time. So I'm so grateful to the Seattle community for always having something for me to be able to tap into that really did reflect that. And I love being able to hear and know that this is continuing. Langston Hughes, the Performing Arts Institute, they came here on the Day with Trae and said, look, we want to bring it back to the days where the doors of Langston are open for those after school kids, folks trying to find something to get into. We just used to stumble up in there and just be like, what's up for today? Like, what's going on? And I love to be able to spotlight the ways that Langston is staying true to that commitment by keeping their doors open with phenomenal leaders and experts and artists in our community who want to pour back in to future generations. And some of these classes are all open to adults. So it's like future, past, current generations. Ultimately, Langston saying we're here for community. We are here to uplift culture. And it really is one thing that I love is knowing all of these folks are within our community. And it's beautiful because we get to tap in. We get to go to a specific place, tap into these amazing classes and the dope expertise that these leaders and these teachers are bringing to the space. So shout out to Langston for being so honorable in doing this commitment, not only for those who are looking for it, but those who've been wanting it to come back, like myself. When you grow up in an institution, you're always wanting to be able to say, man, it's still doing what it did for me. It's doing it today. It's still going on. And now my son, he gets to experience that by being there in the summertime with the Teen Summer Musical. So it's full throttle. And that's what we want. We want these institutions to thrive generation over generation. And that means we need to pour into them. So after this short break, we actually get to hear from Chief Awodi about how he's pouring in to that amazing institution and into community with all of these amazing cultural experiences. And we might have a special surprise for you all because he's going to be drumming for us and we'll get a taste of what he's bringing to this space. You definitely don't want to miss it. Stay tuned. You're watching The Day with Trae.
Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle is bringing a whole lot of star power to town as Taraji P. Henson and Hill Harper headline their 23rd annual breakfast happening November 22nd at the Seattle Convention Center Summit. Grab your tickets now at urbanleague.org.
Washington's charter public schools prioritize equitable learning opportunities for all students and strive for openness at every level. Teachers work with parents to build a trusting and supportive learning environment for students. To learn more, visit wacharters.org.
Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Trae Holiday. We're teaming up with Public Health Seattle and King County to remind you that back to school time means making sure your kids are up to date on their vaccinations. Public Health Seattle and King County is offering free back to school vaccine clinics for kids ages 0 to 18 all fall. You heard that right, free. No matter what your insurance situation is, they got you covered. Getting your kids vaccinated is the best way to protect them from serious diseases like measles, mumps, and whooping cough, and it's required for them to attend school or childcare. So call your health clinic pediatrician or doctor today to make sure your kids have all their required vaccinations. You can also visit kingcounty.gov/find a clinic to find a clinic near you. Let's work together to keep our kids healthy and in school. Peace. Welcome back, everyone, to the David Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. Joining me right now is Chief Awodi. What's up?
Hey, how y'all doing? How you
I'm
doing?
good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
You know, this is exciting because you have some knowledge you're bringing back into the community. Tell us about why this is important to you.
Wow. Since I was, I grew up in Seattle, at least from about, 11 onward. And, growing up here, I came from a family that it was really important to be connected to your roots, to understand who we were as Black Americans, and to also understand our roots before our people came to the States.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I recognized was a lot of my peers, some of them did, but a lot of them, when we would mention Africa, we would mention just, a lot of historical occurrences, just even in Black American history here, didn't really have that same knowledge base. And so I had one event actually. When I was a teenager, about 16. I was walking with one of my African drums, and me and my friend, we're walking, and I grew up in the south end of Seattle, so we were walking down, and then I saw there was two dudes on the other side, and they said something to us, right? And I just got done doing a drum event at Mount Zion Church, right? So I was happy, like I was drumming, the people were coming. It was really good. It was one of the dancers, and it was Makata. We was excited, right? And so I saw the brothers. I didn't hear what they said, but I was just like happy. I was like, yeah, my brother, right? So he came. They came. Them and their friends came by, right? And when the guy asked me, he said, "Hey, what was you throwing up?"
Oh,
And I
wow.
said, "You mean Black Power?" And they were like, "Nah, man." I was like, "Yeah, we brothers," because I was super happy, amped up for my African, African American history. He was like, "Man, I only got one brother. We ain't brothers," right?
Wow.
And so my friend happened to have went to school with his cousin. He was like, "Wait, are you such and such?" And they're like, "Yeah." And so he kind of diffused the situation.
Wow.
But afterward, as teens, me and him were really pro-Black. We were like, I don't know if the community has any hope after that, right? We was just like, what happened, right? And but incidents like that,
Mm-hmm.
because I recognized that for me, culture was a main. It helped save me actually. It helped get me through. It helped me like I just at 11. My mom actually was taking like this Afro-Caribbean dance and drum class, right? And I was just sitting down, just chilling. As a kid, I was like, man, this is boring. I don't care about this, right? My mom said, look, you ain't gonna get on my nerves this whole time. So you get one choice. You drum or you gonna dance. I chose drumming.
Yeah.
I ain't dancing.
Yeah.
At that age anyway. Later on, I actually grew up to now I do African dance as well, right? But at that age, I was like, no, I'm just gonna drum. And so getting involved in it and just seeing like images of like strong Black men, like, drumming, and then hearing that the drums were actually more than just, wood and skin, but it represented, the connection to divinity, right? Understanding like that enslaved Africans all throughout the Caribbean, even in the United States, utilize drums to break free of situations that other people would think was impossible to break free of,
Yeah.
right? That drums actually had the sound of, like, they represented the sound of freedom for our people. As a, slowly but surely, I pretended like I didn't like drumming, but then after a while, I was like, oh, I want to learn this rhythm. Oh wait, I want to do this. I want to do this, right? And so eventually, I ended up realizing I fell in love with the drum.
Wow.
Right, people actually who knew me growing up in the South, and they said, "Yeah, we used to see you like banging on the window, banging on like like the bus windows and stuff like
Yep.
that, practicing certain African rhythms and stuff. Just be like I would constantly be learning different songs and stuff, and it was just my discipline. I loved it, right?
Wow.
And I think what really pushed me to really say, hey, I want to use this for my community and really like use this as a vessel for healing is I was 14, I remember. I'm 34 now. I was 14. And we were playing basketball, right? And I'm hearing all this stuff nowadays that's going on in Seattle about gun violence. So we're playing basketball, right off of Othello Park. And two of these dudes, they start arguing with each other. One of the guys who's on my team, there's another dude, right? And they start just saying stuff to each other. The one of them pulls out a gun and he points at both of us. He was like, he basically said, man, I'll pop you and you right now, right? Somehow I just paused. My family also was in the African spirituality. I paused and I was like, oh, gonna let me live another day. And something happened where it was diffused. And so right afterward, I just pretended like I was cool. Then I ended up figuring out how to, go. And I went home, and I just started crying.
Yeah.
And I was just like, it was really sad. But I had my 3 drums, my conga drums at that time, and I remember just playing the drums, like just playing, like putting everything into it, right? Like just saying, just imagining like me being free, and just not living. Hold on, this get emotional. Like, but I remember just saying, man, like just imagining and just like thinking to myself, like, then playing. I had my little stereo, right, playing some other African music and then just playing along with them, and it was just like that pain that I was feeling. I was able to hit it on the drums, and I was able to be like, one day I'm gonna make it out. One day I'm not gonna be in this kind of environment. One day, too, because drums were always used for healing. I'm gonna help other people who want to find healing through this too, right?
Wow. I mean, well, that those kind of personal experiences from childhood, they matter, and they really inherently begin to shape how we view the world and how we associate ourselves in it. And so I really appreciate that personal touch, because for me, that's the kind of energy that you're exchanging when people come to a drum class. I can only imagine pouring that passion in and understanding the vibrant history of drumming and how, in ancient times it was used as for so many different things, to express things. When we talk about freedom for those who were enslaved, I mean, there's so much that goes into drumming. So I really appreciate you sharing it. And, in a space like Langston, I got to ask you about this because, it is such a special place.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that the team at Langston has understood really the assignment, as they say, right? Like they are like, no, we are here for community. It's so community rooted, and it stayed as such in all of its programming. How does it feel to be a part of the Langston legacy?
So as you mentioned, you grew up City, going to Langston. I was in the spoken word growing up as well, right? And so I remember going to Langston for their, open mics and just being a part of different youth programs. And Langston was there, so just to be back there and be like, oh, I'm an adult now. I'm one of the guys who's teaching, and even I've had people come in, drop in classes like teens with their sisters or like a cousin or a family member. And then, by the time they're done, like we start the drumming and they're like, wow, this was really fun. I feel really good about this, right? And just to know that, oh, I'm really in my community providing these free resources and having people to be able to, whenever they want, get a taste of Africa.
Yeah, yeah.
So
it's so special too, because I think there's a yearning for it. You
Yes.
know, there was, I think that maybe it was a time in certain communities where it was shunned a little bit, right? Like,
Yes.
you know, this idea of, you know, Americanizing, the
Yep.
Americanization of our culture, that kind of assimilation. There's a lot of folks that are like, man, we just want to, we see how people are making it here. We want to be able to
Yep.
mimic that, right? And
Yep.
and it's quote unquote make it, whatever that means for people. But I love that there's this surge happening
Yeah.
amongst even younger folks who are like, man, what was it like? You know, let me learn more, let me understand it.
Mhm.
And when you talk about African spirituality, you know, in the Pacific Northwest, I think about places like New York where it's just prevalent.
Yes.
And here it's not as much, right? And so we have to really try to usher that in by
Yeah.
exemplifying those practices as well. So I'm sure you, how much of that resonates with you in terms of, you know, your leadership and community?
Thank you. So, interestingly enough, I did my family was into it because my mom's originally from New York, so you know they was already open to it, right? And so we were kind of, you know, so Orisha in general, you know, our family went into it. And the Orisha are West African deities from Nigeria and Benin Republic, amongst the Yoruba people of the Southwest region, you know, Nigeria, then also throughout Benin, right? And our family was in Orisha. And I remember going to school at first as a young, because as I mentioned, kids didn't even really know that much about history here. So of course, like, hey, wait, what is this, right? And growing up, I remember sometimes like some teachers would ask us like about some of our beliefs at home and everything. And it was interesting because while other students of other cultures, like they might be Buddhist, they might be this, right? The moment I would like say something like, hey, yeah, my family does African spirituality, they'd be like, oh, so you worship the devil?
Wow.
And I would have black teachers say this to me, right? And I'd be like, and I was like, you know, and as a kid, you know, I had to kind of get really good at advocating for myself in those environments. But it was at that time anyway seen as like, nah, we don't do this, right? And it was interesting because when but I still, this was a part of healing for me, right? I was always into it. And so even at 19, I actually went to Nigeria and I was initiated into the Ifa priesthood. And then and then also like started learning and deepening my connection with Orisha, right? The moment I was able to leave Seattle, though, I did leave for a little bit. And I remember in New Orleans when I was there, people was like, oh, you do Ifa? Oh, well, you know, we got Baba such and such and this. And then everybody's like, invite me to Congo Square. They're like, yeah, he a Babalawo. He's training to be a Babalawo. He's this. I'm drumming and all that stuff like that, right? And I'm like, oh. And then later on, I actually ended up moving to D.C. because I went to Howard for a little bit. And I remember the first day, like, in D.C., I'm walking. And I see a couple of dudes, like young dudes, and we call these Ileke, right? And they represent the different Orisha that we worship. And I saw them with Ileke, and I said, wait, y'all got Ileke on? And they're like, yeah, what's up? And I'm like, oh, you know, look, and they're like, oh. And I was like, wait, you guys are just out here like that? And they're like, what do you mean we're just out here like that? And I'm like, sorry, y'all, I'm from Seattle. So I was just like, I was just used to being the only one. And they're like, no, we got, you know, they got big Khans communities that practice spirituality from Ghana. They had the Orisha communities. And I'm just like shocked seeing like other young people like me who grew up in Orisha families, right?
Yes. So people were experiencing that they do it too, and you weren't the only one.
Yeah, and I'm looking, I'm like, oh, okay, this is what we do. They're like, yeah. But the interesting thing is, because since I was in Seattle, right, and for me it was like a thing of, you know, when things started kind of getting really bad there, I was like, I made a decision to focus on drumming to kind of stay out the way. You know, and it was interesting. I had a couple of cool friends though who was like, they was like, okay, this is what Javon does, right? I remember my 16th birthday, had a sleepover and we all went out and all this stuff like that, right? But they would see me leave the house and I do, you know, we'd have a shrine for the ancestors, so I would greet it. And they were like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, you know, this is like, you know, I'm giving honor to my ancestors, right? Tell me what, by the end of it, everybody started saying, hey, I want to greet my ancestors too, right? And they took out their hats. They was, you know, and I was like, and then it was funny because they were like, man, I feel extra strong now. I got my ancestors behind me, right?
You know, that's the beauty of it. You're absolutely right. I mean, you know, normalizing the practice is really special. And I love hearing those stories for you. And I'm so grateful that you've decided to spend some time at Langston with these classes,
Mhm.
bringing, you know, the understanding of drumming,
Yeah.
because that's such a major node when we think about
Yep.
our African spirituality.
Yep.
I see you got the drum here.
Oh
Okay,
yeah,
Chief
yeah.
Awodi. I want to give you a little time to give us a little taste of what folks are experiencing
All
in your
right.
class.
And so yeah, definitely. So since I was from Seattle, I really was intense about wanting to learn and get to the root, right?
Mm-hmm.
So actually, by the time I got to 18, I went to Nigeria and I started going there for months at a time. I would actually sometimes do Alaskan fishing in the summertime, just so I can have the money to go to
Wow.
Nigeria and just stay there, right? And even when I went to DC, they were impressed because actually I was initiated to the Drum Society of Ion, right?
Mm.
But there's a way that they do. It's called Idoshu, and actually I was one of the first, actually the first African American. Like even when they was there, they was like, "Wait, you did what, right?" And so even throughout the South and in the East Coast, they're like, "How's this guy from Seattle making these kind of waves, right?" So Seattle, we are respected.
There
though.
we go. There we go.
But this is called the bata drum, and it's a very sacred drum. Throughout, you see it actually. The enslaved Africans in Cuba, they brought a form of this drum to Cuba, and it represents like really a story house of ancient African wisdom, right? So I was actually initiated directly in Africa to it, and this drum is known for being able to speak the Yoruba language. It's connected to a Yoruba deity named Shango, and he's a deity of thunder. So that's why this drum, when you hit it, it sounds like thunder. Now, it does sound like it has that strong sound. This drum though is actually a very sacred drum that is known to be able to speak and send messages to all of the Orisha or West African deities. And it's known as when people see someone walk with this drum, they know that okay, they're not just a regular drummer, but they're someone who actually really is and goes deep with like what the ancestors have told us to do. This drum is also able to speak the language because the Yoruba language is tonal, right? And so this drum emulates tones. Like for instance, I'm gonna do a proverb. Awaragba, awaragba, adiye funfun agba, adiye awaragba. Right? And so actually drummers would use this to send messages across townships. Even if I was to drum that in Nigeria right now, most people would be like, "Oh, okay, I did that," and start saying it. This drum also is known to speak to the deities. For instance, I was saying, "Oshun no shogbo ba mi she, Oshun ba mi she, Oshun no shogbo ba mi she, Oshun ba mi she," and I'm saying, "Oshun from Oshogbo, come and bring me goodness. Come and help me to do my things. Ba mi she," or you can say ba mi re, bring me all good things, right? So this drum is also an excellent drum for dance and song. Oshun etente oe, Oshun etente oa. Yami do shupa, Oshun etente. And so yeah, the drum, and let me tell you, as much as the drum sounds good, the dancing goes even better with it. Trust me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Chief Awodi. Oh, of course, folks are going to want to know now how they get to these amazing classes that you're offering at Langston.
Yeah.
Dates, time, what does the information look right here in this camera closest to
Perfect,
me,
right
and let
here.
them know.
So this is every Monday. We have a seniors class at 11 a.m. and we also have an all ages classes from 5:45 to 6:30. I hope to see you there. We're also for those who are interested in even learning more about West African Orisha. Every Thursday we're going to be doing an informational / even a fellowship starting at 6:30 to 7:30.
Wow. Chief Awodi, thank you so much
Definitely.
for not only exploring these amazing roots we have
Mhm.
that we need to tap back in with, but for bringing them back home so that we can have that connection. Appreciate you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Anytime you want to come back, you let me know.
We'll do, we'll do. And also, do I have a little bit of time to talk about one program that we do as well?
Yeah.
So also, as well as I told you about, my spiritual leanings, but my professional leanings as well. I have a master's in ethnomusicology from the University of Washington. And I'm the executive director of a nonprofit called the Hawk Foundation for Research and Education in African Culture. Currently, we have few programs going on with incarcerated youth through DCYF, Department of Youth and Family Services. And we're working with the Department of Health right now to actually implement African drumming as a health modality, right? And we're getting our programs assessed by a couple of professors at UW, and we're looking forward to rolling out some good programs for the community rooted in African modality.
Wow. Great work all around. Appreciate you so much.
Definitely.
Wow, y'all. What a great way to uplift some ways that we are staying connected to those roots. Of course, I get to wrap all this up right after this short break. Stay tuned. You're watching The David Trae.
A world of wonder awaits at Pacific Northwest Ballet's The Nutcracker. Treat your loved ones to the Northwest's favorite holiday tradition at Seattle Center's McCall Hall. Visit pnb.org.
Disney and Cameron Mackintosh's Mary Poppins comes to life on stage at the Fifth Avenue Theatre, featuring Step in Time and Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Make it a jolly holiday at Mary Poppins. For tickets, visit fifthavenue.org.
Hello, welcome to Elite Insights with Carlos Himani. We're looking to offer an in-depth look at event production industry through the lens of client experiences and joint successes. The podcast will emphasize guest interviews, focusing on client discussing their fields and reflecting on their collaboration with Elite Collective. Again, you're with Elite Insights. Carlos Himani here. See you guys in a few.
Africatown Plaza is our latest affordable housing development project. It's 126 units of affordable housing over community commercial space.
It's the first time in my career, and I've been doing this for 10 years, that I was able to design for people who look like me.
Africatown Plaza is a beacon of hope.
Africatown Plaza is a love letter to the community.
Welcome back, everyone, to The David Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. Huge shout out to my guest today, Chief Awodi, bringing the energy. When I tell you the drumming has uplifted so much in this studio, y'all, we're just over here full of joy. This is the expression and the experience that you get by tapping in with his phenomenal classes right there at Langston. Of course, you can always learn more if you just look up Langston Hughes Performing Arts Institute. Find your way to get connected to these amazing community resources that are not only elevating rich cultural practices, but also bringing practicality to it so you understand the value of drumming from that time till now, because we still need it in this day and age. So make sure y'all tune in. I'm just super excited because every time I have amazing guests on this show, y'all, I'm inspired. I want you to be inspired. I'm always telling my kids, no matter what you do, go learn it, get the master of the skill, but bring it back into community. This collective pot of knowledge and information and experiences we all get to pour into. So I want you to be inspired too, to find your way to pour into that collective pot, whatever it means for you. There is something that you have that can benefit others. Make sure you tune into it and bring it out for all of us to experience and share along with you. Thanks so much for watching today. I'll be back with y'all tomorrow to wrap up the week. And until then, at 11 a.m., y'all, peace. Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.